Welcome everyone, today we have a new guide for Diablo 4, and in this video we'll be looking into every class build for the Server Slam for the Ashava boss build. So what I want to do is, we know that the Ashava ward boss will be spawning for the Diablo 4 Server Slam, and I want to look into every good build for each of the classes. And what we'll do firstly is, let's have a look at the boss spawn timers, and then we'll go through the build for each of the classes. Now, in case you guys are wondering, the first boss of Ashava will spawn around within 5 hours of the recording of this video, probably shorter when you see the video. So what I want to do is, I want to provide you guys with a timer of the boss spawn, and also I made the countdown timer. So make sure you use the countdown timer and also use those timers, and make sure you double check the time zone in case I missed up anything. And you can see that there will be 9 total bosses to be killed, 1 every 3 hours, and this is actually pretty good. So this particular timer will show you the first boss that will be spawning, and the ones that follow will be 1 every 3 hours. Now, I'm sure most of us know the location of the boss. It is located over here where my mouse is, so I'm sure most of us know the boss, right? And if you do come over here, you'll be fighting the boss and you'll be getting lots of loots. But of course, the focus of this video is to make a build for each of the classes. And what I want to do is, I want to make a build that is very minimum with legendaries. And you don't really need any legendaries or even codexes. You can use golden rare items and still make this build work. And our build will focus on staying alive, dealing damage, and kill the boss before the timer runs out. And if we do kill the boss fast enough, guys, we can swap servers and kill more bosses for the additional loots. So coming over to our first build for the Necromancer. Now over here I have made a build guide for each of the classes. I try to minimize how many aspects we need, and then you don't really need those aspects, but I have highlighted a few if they do help with the build. So we'll be going with a level 21 Necromancer build, and each of the classes, I'm assuming you guys have 21 points for the skill points. If you do have 1 or 2 less points, it's okay as well. So starting with Necromancer, we'll go with Decompose, and then we'll go with Decompose provides us with more essence when the enemy dies. This is not a really big deal because, Ashava is gonna die, right? You can go with 2 points into Decompose if you want, it's not really a big deal. So what we want to do is, we want to be dealing damage with a core spell with Bone Spear. So we'll go with 5 points into Bone Spear and also its upgrades to make the first enemy vulnerable, and this will make the boss vulnerable. Now 1 point will be spent over here for Healed Flesh, and this is going to be quite important as you're going to see. Over here, our secondary source of damage will be 5 points into Corpse Explosion, and we'll be upgrading this one for the damage over time, which provide us a lot more shadow damage, which will be really good for this particular boss fight. Now, knowing that the boss will have a massive damage over time, I really recommend having a survivability skill that makes us immune. And for the Necromancer, we have the Blood Mist. Having this activated when the boss have its damage over time really saves lives. And here we have some spare points, so 2 of my spawn points actually went to Green Harvest, or at least 1 point into Green Harvest. This means that what you want to do is, you want to be getting the double rate of getting corpses, 8% chance of getting corpses against the boss. And as you deal damage over time with your Corpse Explosion, now deals damage for 6 seconds, you'll be spawning a lot more corpses. And we are going to use those corpses by using Corpse Explosion and gaining more essence. And in return, we'll be using more Bone Spears. And if this sounds familiar to you guys, it's because we have a build over here. So we do have a YouTube build over here to talk about this exactly build. So definitely come over to this link to see this build in practice in the Server Slam. Now you guys can see that we have finished all the points by level 21. So we actually didn't go for any other points. And over here, we will be going with this particular legendary aspects on your 2-handed weapon or 1-handed weapon if you can, or on Amulet. If you don't have this one, it is okay as well. And finally, as for the Book of the Dead, we'll be sacrificing minions. You can sacrifice the skirmishers for the bonus critical rate, or you can sacrifice them for the bonus shadow damage, simply because the shadow damage over here will be dealt through Corpse Explosion. Now similarly for the skeleton mages, I do recommend sacrificing them for the bonus vulnerability damage. Now in case you guys are wondering, we don't really have the skeleton minions surviving a long time against the boss, and they're really wasteful to use the corpses because we'll be using those corpses for the Corpse Explosion. Now coming over to a hybrid Zoo and also Companion Earth Druid build against the boss. So what we do is, we want to come over to our notes over here, and you can see this will be a level 21 build again. We'll be going with Windshield, and also Windshield will provide us with 4 seconds vulnerability if we get the 20% chance. Now over here, what I want to show you guys is we'll be going with Landslide. I think Landslide is by far a really good single target spell that deals a lot of damage. and we'll be going with 5 points of this to spend our spirit. Now, in order to survive against the boss, I do recommend going with Earthen Bulwark and also its upgrades to make ourselves unstoppable and also to gain more fortified life. I also recommend going with a bit of Cyclone Armor if you find yourself taking a lot of damage from the boss. Over here, we'll be going into the Zoo build for an alternative build compared to the previous build we had earlier. So you can see here, we do have a... So you guys can see over here, we do have a build for the level 20 Druid, but over here we do have a small adjustment. So what I want to show you guys is, we'll be going with 3 points into Core of Wild, then 1 point into Ravens, and also then 1 point into Poison Creeper. Now we'll be upgrading Poison Creeper because we want to increase the poison duration. This pretty much doubles the damage from Poison Creeper, and this makes this skill very powerful. Now, alternatively guys, if you find yourself using wolves more often and you want to do more damage with wolves, what you can do is you can do 2 to 4 skill points into wolves over the upgrades over here. But I think those are pretty identical in terms of the damage boost, so if you go to Vine Creepers, definitely go for this upgrade for increased poison damage. And as for the wolves, we'll be going with at least 2 points into wolves. And other than that, we're out of points again. So this build will be dealing damage through Spirit with Landslide and dealing a lot of damage consistently with the companions. Now, when do we stop using Poison Creeper and also its upgrades is when we actually get the wolves over here. So upgrade the wolves to level 4, and then if we do get those particular unique legendary aspects, this will be very powerful. For the additional 1 companion, this is really good already. And over here, if you do get wolf companion into werewolves, this is a massive boost of damage. Next up, we have the Barbarian, and this time we'll be going with the Rend Bleeding Barbarian. This is pretty straightforward. Now we do have a video guide about the Barbarian, and this is about the Barbarian going with Thorns. But unfortunately guys, we can't really go with Thorns Barbarian against the world boss, right? The boss is gonna kill you before you do any Thorn damage that is significant. So what I recommend is coming over here to our skill tree, level 21 Barbarian over here. We'll be going with 1 point into Flay and also its upgrade to provide us with more damage with bleeding. We'll be going with Rend, and this is by far the highest damaging spell with Barbarians. And this is when I assume you guys don't have any of the legendary aspects. If you do have some really strong ones like Upheaval, maybe if you have the Hammer of Ancients or maybe the Whirlwind, you can try for those as well. But normally, if you don't have any great legendaries, going with Rend definitely deals the most damage. Now it is likely the boss will be very vulnerable due to a lot of other players, so you can go with Rend deals additional 12% damage against vulnerable enemies. Now over here, we'll be going with a lot of defensive perks for the Barbarian, and I do want to stay alive as a Barbarian, right, because we're very melee based. So I'll be going with Rally Cry and also its upgrade to provide us with fortified life. I'll also be going with Iron Skin and also its upgrades to heal us with low HP. So this is kind of similar to the idea of the Necromancer, which will become invulnerable against the damage over time from the boss. But the Barbarians are basically tank everything, and I move faster with Rally Cry. Now in order to survive even more, I decided to go to 1 point into Leap as well, and this will allow us to get out of the fray of battle and get out of danger. Now finally, we want to deal more damage with Rapture with a bleeding damage. So 1 point into Rapture and also its upgrades. Now it is optional guys if you want to go for additional attack speed after Rapture. What I recommend is, if you find yourself to be dying a little bit more, go with Rapture that heals us for another 15% of maximum life. Now over here, it is actually harder to find some great aspects that will be unique to the build. So I only found one that could be interesting. So this is when we deal the rend damage directly to bleeding enemies. We'll be getting some more fury, and having more fury for this build means we deal more damage. And remember guys, you can be gaining a lot more furies after Rally Cry and then start normal attacking with Flay. Next up, we have the Rogue. Now for the Rogue build, it is a little bit theoretical for me, but I do think this will work very well with Rapid Half Fire and also Combo Points plus Focus Fire. So let's come over to the build over here, level 21 build, level 21 Rogue. We'll be going with Force Arrows, and then Force Arrows will provide us with increased critical chance. Now Force Arrows itself also provides us with vulnerability. One focus of this particular build is that we want a lot of vulnerability. Now one of my friends has told me that Focus Fire Rogue is actually really good against single target, so I really want to try this build out. So we'll be going with 5 points into Rapid Fire, and over here we'll be going with its upgrades, which provide us with more energy after casting in Rapid Fire against vulnerable enemies. And you'll see we'll have a lot of vulnerabilities. Next up, we'll go with a few of the mobilities and also survivability skills. 1 point into dash means we can dash twice, and this is going to be very essential to be getting out of the damage from the boss. Now over here, I decided to go with catch-ups and also its upgrades, simply because catch-ups allows you to be mobile while dealing damage to the boss on the floor. So here the upgrades allows us to deal more damage against the boss with catch-ups. And also over here, we also have increased critical chance and even more critical chance against vulnerable enemies. Now we do need 1 more point to get to the next part, so over here I went with reduced damage taken from damage over time. Now for the subterfuge of the skill tree, we'll go with Dark Shroud, which provides us with damage reduction and also increased critical rate, which will be really good. Finally, we'll be going with the Imbuement spell, and this one will provide us with a much needed vulnerability. So the Shadow Imbuement will provide us with more vulnerability, and this really works well with the theme of dealing damage through vulnerability and dealing additional critical chance and also gaining additional energy through vulnerability. Now ideally, we want to gain more energy through Focus Fire, and Focus Fire itself will become somewhat more beneficial as we hit enemies multiple times with forceful arrows, which will make enemies more vulnerable. So in this sense, I want to go with a combo rogue in comparison to the Inner Sight or Inner Fire rogue. Now over here, we have some interesting legendaries. If you do get it, it's not bad, but if you don't, it's okay. So one of them is going to be the marksman skills that provide us with a chance of having an arrow storm over the enemy, and this can be very nice for additional damage. And over here we also have that making enemies vulnerable give us more critical chance, which also works well with the build. And finally guys, we have the sources. Now I do want to let you guys know I'm not very good with the sources this time because simply I didn't get enough time to test the sources compared to the other classes. So what I'm thinking is I'm planning to do a theoretical build with Fire Burning Hydra Mage. Now because I didn't get to test this after the change of the sources during the server slam, I'm not sure how good the Hydra is. So bear with me, if you guys do have any tips on this build or any build for the sources, let me know in the comments. So coming over to level 21 sources, we'll be going with Firebolt, and definitely let me know if I'm really bad on this one guys. So I'll be going with upgrades for the Fireball to gain more mana when enemies are burning. I'll focus on the theme of the build for the Burning Fire Mage. So over here, we'll go with 1 point into Fireball and also its upgrades, which provide us with a little additional damage through burning damage. Now coming over to the defense tree, I'll be going with Flame Shield and also its upgrades, which allows us to heal for a lot of life and also to become invulnerable. I'll also be going with Teleport for mobility and also 1 point into Glass Cannon to deal a little more damage. Now once we get over to the Conjunction, I'll be going with 5 points into Hydra and also its upgrades, which provide us more damage through burning enemies. And finally, I do want to come over to Firewall because the upgrade for Firewall allows us to deal more damage against enemies through this particular upgrade, which allows the enemies to take 25% more damage through burning while standing on the firewall. Now I haven't really thought about which of the enchantment I want to go with. Usually I think we can go with the Hydras, and this, after 300 miners we can summon a 5-headed Hydra, but I didn't really get to test it out. So let me know what you guys think about the Sorcerer's build, because I'm most unsure about this one, and I do want to let you guys know about it, because I'm pretty okay with the other 3, especially the first 3. I'm a little iffy on the Rogue, but with the Sorcerers I can't be 100%. Now hopefully you guys enjoyed this video. I really want to make a video to provide you guys with the most information and on the shortest, the build videos, right? So for this one, hopefully we can defeat the world boss very quickly, because if you do guys, then you can swap your server by leaving the channel and joining a different channel, and this way you can find more bosses that is still available. If you do this, you get more loots, and this will be really good for the players who want to get the most out of the beta. Now, if you guys haven't subscribed, it is a really good time to do so, because I'll be covering tons of Diablo 4 related topics and also videos and also guides. We'll be looking to the top meta builds, non-meta builds, leveling up, and also Paragon tricks. We're also looking to the latest events and also official updates and also changes to different characters and also different builds in the game. So make sure you hit that subscribe button and also turn the notification on, because a lot of you who are watching the videos have not subscribed. You can see 80% of the viewers who are watching our videos have not subscribed, so make sure you subscribe to stay tuned for the latest update for Diablo 4.